So you're thinking about selling your house. Should you go back to the agent you purchased the house from all those years ago, or should you go to someone different? We're going to talk about that today. And just to be clear right from the start, there's no clear black and white answer to this. It is a little bit shades of grey. So let's go through a few points for you to consider if you're going to make this decision. So number one, were they likeable? Were they easy to deal with? Were they someone that you like to call and they like to call you? So was that mutual respect there? That becomes very important because they're going to be working with buyers on the property you're selling, and you want those buyers to feel like they can be in a relationship with this particular agent. So it's very important, that first question off the bat, were they likeable? Because I know some buyers will not call an agent that has a house for sale because they've dealt with that agent as a buyer and that agent was just outright rude to them. So that's point number one. Number two, did they have good communication? Because the good communication they would have had with you as a buyer will also be reflected in how they communicate with you as a seller. Did you have to chase them down as a buyer to get an answer or to get an update, or did they call you? Did they communicate with you on a regular basis during the transaction until settlement? And then from settlement, have they kept in touch with you throughout the years that followed, including an anniversary call on every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years that you've owned the property? That's important because buying and selling is a stressful process, and communication is one of the simplest things an agent can do to make that process a little bit more enjoyable and hopefully slightly less stressful. Number three, do they have experience? Because what you don't want is an agent that accidentally listed a house you purchased from them and now 1, 2 or 3 years later you're selling your house. Well, 3 or 4 or 5 years in the business is not a lot of experience. You want to look for decades in the business. And the reason for that, the particular market that we're in right now, every agent that's been in the business now for probably less than 15 years has never seen this type of market. So they don't know exactly what to do and how to get that very best price out of the buyer. So that's where experience really counts. Number four, did they negotiate with you to get more money out of you as a buyer to purchase? Because that becomes important, because now they're going to be working for you as a seller. You want them to try and negotiate with that buyer to get more money out of them, to get you the highest price. I sometimes hear agents say things like, oh, I want to try and give a local a chance. That's okay as long as that local is willing to pay the highest possible price. But I know for a fact in some cases, some agents will sell to a buddy of theirs that's a local at a lower price than they could have got from someone, say, from out of state. So you want to be very careful that you make sure that agent is negotiating on behalf of you, the seller, against the buyer to get the highest price for you, not just to do somebody a favor or to make that agent feel good with a friend of theirs. And that may sound a little controversial, but it does happen, trust me. Number five, is the agent/agency local to the area? Do they have a real office? You do not want to list your property with an online office. It's a waste of time. You don't want to list with a buyer's agency if you bought through a buyer's agency. You want to list with a professional real estate agent that has an actual office. Why is that important? Because they have an office front, they have a shop front, they have buyers that walk into their office all the time saying, here's what we're looking for if it ever comes up, and they keep that running list. So that's why it's important to make sure the agent that you choose is local and has a local office. And so that's pretty much it. That's 5 reasons to either go back to or not go back to the agent that sold you the property. Now, every single reason that I mentioned may not fit your scenario, and that's okay. Everybody has a friend in real estate in the business. Please don't let that be the only criteria that you pick an agent through. And sometimes that happens to me. I've sold a house, a few years ago. They come back, they're selling their house now, and they list with Billy Bob. I don't know where I came up with Billy Bob, but list with Billy Bob because he's a friend of theirs and one of their kids plays soccer with them and they just got in the business and we want to do them a favor. No, you do not do that with possibly the highest investment that you make in your lifetime. You don't want to give it to someone just because you're buddies in the soccer team or your kids are buddies in the soccer team. Make that decision from a professional standpoint. So that's it. So if you're thinking about selling, give me a call, especially if I sold you the house 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 or 20 years ago, or 36 years ago for that matter. If you're thinking about buying, give me a call. I'll certainly help you out and tell you what we have coming up in the next week, month or 6 months for that matter. And if you're a landlord and you want your property managed, give me a call and I'll tell you about our guarantees that we have, including a $500 guarantee that if we can't get your property rented, we give you $500. That's true. See you all next week.